These guys think we're running some kind of charity or something, that they can get off light. From here on in, do what I tell you to do because it's bad for my reputation. Here's a look at the SlyStalloneShop, the Rocky Legacy Collection, Lone Shark Collector 1/6 scale collectible figure. Introducing the ultimate collectible for fans of the classic film Rocky. Standing tall at 12 inches, this action figure of the legendary character Rocky Balboa is a must-have for any fan's collection. Designed with ultra-realistic details and for the first time ever endorsed and made under the official supervision of none other than Sylvester Stallone himself, this action figure captures the essence of the beloved character. Relive the iconic moments from the 1976 film with the impeccable recreation of Rocky Balboa, from his beloved dog Buckus to his trademark fedora hat. This action figure is the perfect representation of the underdog boxer who stole the hearts of millions. Whether a longtime fan of Rocky franchise or a new time-comer to the world of boxing, this action figure is a timeless piece of a memorabilia that captures the spirit and determination of Rocky Balboa. From pet shop visitor to prize-winning fighter. Just before we get a closer look at the Lone Shark Collector Rocky Balboa, a couple of people I'd first like to thank is the artistic team and product direction of the Caustic Plastic staff, not to mention Nick Cardasco, the founder of SlyStalloneShop, who provided the sample we could have a look at. The figure is already now shipping in August for $380. With his fedora on his head, the Italian stallion stands at about 12¼ inches in height, or the brand new figure is 31 centimeters tall. Of the things that come included with Rocky Balboa, the first thing perhaps we'll have a look at is the included index card. This artwork does look good, and if it does look familiar to you, it happens to be the same thing that was featured on the front of the box as well. Similar Sly Stallone 6-scale releases in the past, like John Rambo and Cobra, have also come included with index cards like this, of course specific to their own movie. This time the underdog is treated very nicely front and center, done very nicely in an almost watercolor paint. It isn't just, though, artwork alone that you're looking at. On the back of the card is really where credit needs to be given. The talented team behind the scenes of all the people responsible for making this figure a reality. Tippy top of the list, of course, we've got supervision and direction, Sylvester Stallone himself. Executive producer and direction, Nick Cardasco from the SlyStalloneShop. Artist direction and production management, Fabio Veresi. 3D head sculpt, Inigo Gil. 3D accessory design, Sean Dabbs. Master paint, Dario Barbera. And head sculpt, likeness, direction, and box artwork by John Rivoli. Of course, if you want to check out more, you can go to www.iconinart.com and sign down below, of course, Sylvester Stallone. Generally, in the past, when I've gotten 6-scale releases of Sly, I usually like to display the cards along with them. I think it's just a nice way of displaying those with the figures. To move that off to the side, though, for at least right now, there's a lot of stuff, like I said, to cover off here. I'm just going to move over, though, Rocky, just for a second, because I did also want to show you guys something I didn't show you at the beginning when I was kind of unboxing everything, was, of course, the display base that the figure comes included with as well. This is actually in a separate box all on its own, and it does have, again, like the diorama stand, depicting, of course, the scene where Rocky kind of really does start his life in. One thing I really like about the display base isn't just the fact that it's detailed as well as it is. I mean, it has like little debris of garbage. You've got like little growings of weeds, a little bit what seems to be rust. There's some rust nicely done on the rails. This, by the way, is a separate piece. And when you're first assembling this, I'm just going to take this off for right now. When you're looking at it and you get it out of the box, it comes in one piece like this, and then you get the main railings. The railings are hollow on the inside because then you're basically going to be attaching it onto this little ledge section right here. I didn't think that when I was putting this in, it was going to be, I felt like the quarters were going to be really, really tight because you've got a few little weeds kind of growing so close to that. But, you know, again, you're just going to take it and it's going to snap nicely in place. It's a fairly heavy bit of plastic as well, and probably one of the reasons why it's heavy too is that there's some magnets. You can in fact actually take Rocky's feet and you can attach them onto the display stand. And it's actually like right around here where you can kind of feel there's an attraction to Rocky's boots. A little bit further to the front, it doesn't seem like it's as strong, but it seems like it's the strongest like right around here. Just love the fact that they actually included the display base. Not only the display base perfect then for Rocky, but it's also good as well for one of the other accessories that come included with the figure as well, and that being Buttkiss. Buttkiss, his little trusty dog, of course. It's nicely detailed. Sad to say, though, it doesn't have any posability. I can understand, though, why they chose not to sculpt the dog with any bit of posability or articulation, because I would feel like it would start to break up what would be, for all intents and purposes, a seamless-looking mold. The head sculpt for Butkus is fantastic, very much realistic to the dog that we see in the film. Coloring done really nicely there as well. So while the figure doesn't have, not that I would really even consider necessarily Butkus to be a figure, he is more an accessory. While yes, it would have been nice if they could have had articulation, I can certainly understand why. On the undercarriage of the dog, you can see they've even airbrushed some nice white there on the undersides, not to show the dog's privates. But it doesn't seem to be any magnets on Butkus. So it's a case just really of taking the dog and putting it onto the display stand, and the dog's really going to just stay at the display stand while we look at the remaining accessories. One other thing that's fun that they included as well is not just the fact that there's a dish, but there's also things that are going to be going inside the dish. The figures come also included, or the figure comes included, with its tiny little turtles. The turtles are named Cuff and Link. I wouldn't be able to tell you really which one is which. Perhaps Link is the one that has the mouth open. They aren't identical turtles either. Funny, after actually the movie, Sly Stallone took the turtles home. As far as I know, Cuff and Link, although I don't know if he still calls them Cuff and Link, the turtles, as far as I know, are still alive to this day. They're nicely detailed as well. Again, you've got the underbody of the turtles in a much lighter kind of, I don't know, like brownish beige, and some really nice decorative details to the tops of the shells. Again, when you're looking at them, they're not identical to one another either. One turtle very obviously does have a mouth open, while the other one is shut. Now, of course, you can take the turtles. I think Rocky has already taken, has he cleaned the dish? I mean, obviously, my sister used to have turtles, and it was one of the things you always want to really make sure that turtles, you clean the bowls regularly, because they get smelly really fast. But we're going to do those. We're going to take the turtles and we're going to put them inside their little tiny dishes. I mean, that's more than enough space, I feel, for turtles to get around. I mean, obviously turtles, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen like Stallone's turtles now. They're much bigger than they were when they were in the movie. But you probably would want to maybe have a bowl bigger than what they are right now. Obviously, as they get a little bit bigger, you're going to want to have yourself a bigger dish. Why are we talking so much time about the turtles? It's strange, though, that of all the accessories that the figure comes included with, he doesn't actually come included with actually turtle feed, turtle food. I think that would have been one welcomed accessory, but the figure doesn't come included with it. At least he does get Cuff and Link, though. He gets himself, speaking of links, I don't know if you would consider these links, but he does include some wrist peg links that, of course, can be swapped out. If you happen to have any cases where the wrist peg does break, then, of course, they got you covered. They give you an extra two. Move those off to the side. The figure also comes included with his notebook and his pencil. Of course, the pencil, I'm sure I don't really have to necessarily tell you, but the pencil probably would be very easily lost if you're not too careful. The book doesn't have any printing, though, on the front, and it certainly doesn't have any printing on the back, but it does have a nicely sculpted coil on the side, on the spine. The book doesn't open. But one thing, though, is I've already taken the liberty of swapping out one of the many, many hands that come included with Rocky. And with the hands that he had right now, or at least this hand right here, you can actually take, and he does this actually in the movie too, like he sort of holds the book at one point in his hand. I think he also keeps himself like the pencil, kind of wedges it in between his thumb. And I sort of started the review kind of like this. I'm sure maybe as I follow continuing to display this guy after the review, might end up displaying him, though, with the notebook either in both hands with the pencil, or maybe even having the other hand holding the notebook and then the pencil in his other hand. Let's just go ahead and remove those for right now. The other thing that he also has, maybe not while including turtle food, is that he also comes included with his ball. I mean, we see this a lot in the movie. The ball, which I'm really nice to see, is actually magnetic. Because, I mean, like, first of all, they already give you the hand, and they give you the way they've sculpted a hand in a cup shape like this, that for, on its own, you could easily just put the cup in there and it isn't going to be going anywhere. But it does seem, though, like it's got a magnetic attraction. Because putting the hand in there, or putting it into the hand, it does seem that the ball stays in place. If it is the case that they did, in fact, add a magnet, I'm glad that they did. It's those attentions to detail that it never really seems missed here when it comes to Sly Stallone releases. I love the fact that, again, like the hand does seem to have a magnet. It does also have, while we're speaking on hands, I've already taken, again, the liberty of removing one of the hands. I guess really the other hand would have been, well, the mirror flip to this one would have been then the closed fist. Rocky is, of course, as you can see, wearing fingerless gloves. Everybody was wearing fingerless gloves. Nicely painted there as well. He does also come included with a pair of relaxed hands, or gestured hands. Or again, if somebody, if Rocky needs to collect money, somebody hasn't paid back yet. Also comes included with another version of the relaxed hand, and he comes also included with this hand here, which again would just be, not necessarily that it is the cup holding hand, but I guess if you wanted to, yeah, you could. If you want to have it on the opposite side, they included technically hands for both sides of his body, if you want to display it that way. Something else that comes included with the figure too is his hat, his fedora. You may be looking already at the fact that the figure does have a hat on his head now. That head is already permanently molded with the hat, but they also give you as well a secondary hat. The hat is a fairly hard plastic, and you can see they've got a little bit of that gold detailing on the side like you would have had in the movie. Funny though enough, he also comes included with a head that doesn't have the hat. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, could you take the hat and put it on top of his head? You can't. If you could, but you'll notice right away, first of all, it doesn't fit his hair, and then also it seems like the hat is maybe a little too small. You could say, well, if the hat had only been really bigger, but then really, if you're putting it on this head anyways, technically Rocky already has two head sculpts that already have the hat on top of his head. So I don't see what reason there really would be that you would design the hat specifically so it could fit over top of a hatless head when you really already have the heads that are doing that anyways. Well, I suppose we are holding this head. Let's get a closer look at the details, though, on Rocky. A much younger version of Sly Stallone, the Italian stallion, presented very nicely here. All the head sculpts are exceptional. My only one thing I would say, though, is with the hair. The hair's, I feel, a little on the shinier side. I would have maybe dulled that down just a little bit so it didn't look as shiny plastic. But from a head sculpt standpoint, it is probably one of the best. Now, again, we're measuring this against the Cobra that we've already had a look at, and, of course, the John Rambo. All of those from, of course, Stallone's specific movies have all bared very strong likenesses to those specific roles. From a Rocky role, I think this is definitely one of the best, if not the best Rocky head sculpts on the market. Of course, you got a little bit of darker grays that they've added for the lower end of his face. Added a little bit of red there also as well. Just like the warmer tones of his skin tone on his face. But the only thing, again, like I would say, like his hair is just a little on the shinier side. Now, he does have, again, two different head sculpts that have already the fedora. He's got this one, and he's got the head. Don't worry, I'll show you guys the differences between the two. To show this and compare it along with the fedora, they've actually made the fedora the exact same size. So it wasn't the case necessarily that they made this hat notably bigger because it was a separate standalone accessory. It seems to be the same size. If we, want to make sure we've got that, facing the right way. It is, again, the exact same size. So the two heads that he gets that he has fedoras with, I'm just going to go and pick the figure up so you guys can see. The only thing that's really different between them is that the one that I'm starting with right now on the neck actually has the eyes looking forward, whereas this head sculpt does have the eyes kind of looking to the side. You can also see that when it comes to his mouth is just a little bit open in the corner on this head sculpt, and it seems to be closed on this head sculpt here. I don't know if I would necessarily have packed the figure with seemingly almost two of the identical head sculpts. I know the placement of the eyes is a little bit different on this one, but like the head sculpts are so close to one another, I think they honestly could have gotten away with just having the figure with one of these and then having the unfedored hat head as the secondary designated head sculpt. To change out the heads, by the way, too, I actually like this one just a little bit more. I like having just a little bit of the mouth open on the corner, and I think having the eye looking to the corners like that, I think look a little bit more, not that the one looks more realistic than the other, but I think this just almost looks a little bit more like Stallone, even though both are perfect heads. This one also does have the bandages, as you can see, on it above his eyebrow, and a little bit of bruising there to the side as well. But changing out the heads is super easy. All you're really going to have to do is just hold on to the head, and when you're pulling it off the post, it's actually pulling off from this area too. Again, like it's one of those things that really they did think out all of the aspects of 6-scale figures when they released these. A lot of times the hardest problems when it comes to removing heads or swapping them out for that matter is that you have to contend usually with a ball joint. This is such an easier route, and I really wish that more 6-scale companies would do things like this. Once the head is now off, you're going to just take the head that you want to swap it out to and just pop it in place. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fight. You don't have to worry that when you're taking off the head, you're going to be removing the post in the process. That's happened to me. Where I took the head off, and then before I know it, I had the entire dumbbell ball joint removing along with the head, and now I have to fight it to get it back into the neck. This is just a so much easier outlet. Again, if you want to swap it out to this head sculpt, you can do it that way. Again, if you wanted to have it displayed with the regular non-fedored head, you can also do that as well. But I think for this, what we'll do is we'll beeline it back to, of course, Rocky with the eyes kind of looking off to the side. That's my favorite of the 3 head sculpts. Now, okay, so let's look at the rest of his outfit here. So essentially, Rocky is wearing a leather jacket over top of his shirt. I think what they've done here, and I'm just going to lift the shirt up, which is a lot easier to do than we did with the John Rambo, because of course he had the zipped up jacket. But underneath you can see like a full-bodied Stallone underneath. Very different from, of course, regular 6-scale figures that would really kind of cut cost, honestly, when it comes to bodies that they use underneath. A lot of times they can usually use just like generic bodies, but it does seem like if you were to look at this from an attention to detail, I think it very much does look like Rocky's build. Of course, if you want to have the figure displayed, you could, for all intents and purposes, take the jacket off. I like personally just to kind of leave the jacket on myself, but it would just be a case of obviously taking it off the hands and then just removing the jacket. You know, speaking of the jacket, one of my biggest worries was the fact of, were they going to be using like a synthetic material? I was looking online, I checked around to their site, and it doesn't seem, at least from what I've seen, it doesn't seem to list the material that they've used for the jacket itself. I wonder if they are using like a leather material. And if that's the case, that might be one of the reasons why the figure's price point is a little higher. But it doesn't seem that, at least from what I've seen, I can't seem to see what kind of material that they've actually used. It does seem, even if it is a faux leather material, it's definitely one of the better synthetic leathers that I've seen on a figure before. The seamless interior, though, looks just as clean as it does from the outside. Rocky does have these tiny little button loops, and of course on the other side he's got these tiny little buttons. I don't think, though, you could do up the jacket, because it doesn't look like the eyelets go all the way through. Even if it does look like they do go through, but I don't think you'd be able to do up the jacket. The only problem I have, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be across the board with all the Rockies, I've seen a lot of images online of this figure where he's had his hands in his pockets. On this side of his jacket, he does actually have a functioning pocket. So you could take his hand, you could put it in his pocket. On this side, however, though, I noticed on mine, while it does look like you'd be able to put your finger in there, it doesn't look like they finished the pocket. Either that or they've sewn the pocket shut, that you can't get your hand in there. So it's a little disappointing, because ideally I would have really liked to have been able to display Rocky with his hand in one pocket and sort of then just holding like the notepad or even like the ball in his other hand. I just can't do it on this side. And again, I don't know if it's specifically just mine or if it's just the run across the board that they didn't finish the pocket on one side. It is on the one side, though. Down below, of course, he's got himself the black slacks. Again, your attention to detail is the fact that they actually used real fabric for his boots or shoes that he uses. Again, when it comes to other 6-scale companies doing these on the market, this could have so easily been done just with plastic, but it seems to be the case. Like again, Sly Stallone, they're really going for the attention to detail, and I like that they're actually using a fabric boot. Now for the figure's articulation, going to go back, of course, to the top of his head. Rocky's head is going to be surprisingly quite posable. I guess it isn't necessarily surprising, considering there's a ball joint here, and of course there is the one inside the top of the cap there. Between those two, though, Rocky's head can look down quite low. It can look up. It can also move back and forth. And again, for all intents and purposes, you'd be able to rotate the head all the way around. We sort of have looked at the way his building body is underneath. Upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. The lower torso also seems to be on a ball joint just at his abdomen area. And with his arms can easily come out, I would say, just a little less than 90 degrees. You can, of course, move the arms forward. You can move the arms back. There is also a swivel in the bicep, a double hinge on the elbow, which is good to see, and the hands rotate all the way around. As for his legs, they split out, and they only really split so far, because I'm sure the legs would be able to move further than this, but you'll notice as you get any tighter, and as you get to about this position, the seam right here gets really tight. I wouldn't want to move it any further than that, with the risk that this potentially could split the seam. So the legs do go forward, they go back. They are, though, admittingly a little limited just because of the tight material of the pants. Swivel at the top of the thigh, double hinge on the knee, and because again they're using fabric material here, you get a good range, being able to move and rock the ankle back and forth this way. You can also rock it back and forth this way as well. Other than really just the one noticeable thing about the pockets not being functioning on the one side, Love the look of this Rocky. Really, really do. I think that, first of all, Sly Stallone and the talented team behind the scenes at Caustic Plastic have done a fantastic job on this release. Now, again, like this one does have, of course, the diorama, so this one's going to be taking up a little bit more space on your shelf, but welcoming the additional space that's going to now be required in order to display this guy. Having butt kiss, of course, is a nice included accessory. Having the fact that, first of all, Cuff and Link are going along for this release as well. I think I probably would have to go in there, Rocky, and clean up the actual dish here. The only thing, again, like, it's a small thing. It's a very, very small thing. I would have loved if this figure could have come included with, like, tiny little container of turtle food. Other than that, though, there's nothing at all I would have really changed this figure. The fact that he, first of all, does come also included with 3 different head sculpts of 3 different likenesses. Although, again, like with this one, it's so close, really, to the one I'm going to end up displaying with the figure that I honestly feel like they probably didn't even need to spend the time, the plastic or the materials, to produce a 3rd head sculpt when realistically the head sculpts are so close to one another. I'm not faulting it at all, because at the end of the day, you're getting, again, one of the best head sculpts that we've gotten for a Rocky figure. It just so happens, again, it's coming to us from the folks over at SlyStalloneShop. And if anybody knows anything about Sly, it's the company, of course, behind the scenes with Sylvester Stallone, of course, helming everything that's going on there. Of course, I had to look online just out of curiosity to see if Stallone's turtles were in fact still alive. From what I've at least been able to find, the turtles are living their best lives ever. They're granted well into their late 40s by now, but the fact that these things have still been around since 1976, I think is a testament to how well Stallone was caring for them. I mean, right now they're living in aquariums. Back then in the 70s, they were inside of a turtle bowl. I mean, they would be far too big now to sit inside that bowl. And I think honestly, though, even displaying the figure with a turtle bowl out in the streets, I think it'd be pretty dangerous for turtles unless they were the ninja variety. But it's perfect for his dog Buttkiss, and it's perfect, of course, for displaying Rocky. With magnetized feet, it's obviously one guarantee that the figure doesn't, first of all, need to have a cradle display base. With magnets built into a diorama base like this, there's the certainty that Rocky's never going to take a tumble. The character's displayed right now with the ball in his one hand and his hand in his pocket in the other. The thing, unfortunately, about it, though, is that only one of the pockets, at least on mine, is functioning. I don't know if maybe there was something that was missed on this one, but either the pocket just never was finished on one side of his jacket, or it was sewn shut accidentally. So if I do want to have Rocky's hand at least in the pocket of this jacket, I'll only be able to do it on the one side you're seeing right now. The figure does have some decent levels of accessories. It does come, of course, included with his notebook, his pencil, the ball, of course, as already mentioned, the turtle bowl, butt kiss, and of course the diorama. Not to mention as well, the figure does come included with quite a lot of interchangeable hands and 3 alternate head sculpts. He has the one, of course, that we're looking at right now. He has one that's very, very, in fact, similar to this one, other than just having the eyes looking forward and his mouth being closed. And he has also a non-fedored head. Of the ones, at least, that we've gotten, I like kind of with the eyes looking slightly off to the side. I honestly don't think that they really needed to include 2 heads that were so similar to one another. But again, I'm all open and welcoming to whenever a company can throw in extra things, and 3 heads certainly is a lot better than 2. From a tailorship of the way they've handled the outfit, he's got, of course, the leather jacket. Now, again, like I'm looking online to see if this is a real leather. It's got that softness that goes along with using a real leather material. It doesn't have like an artificial. If you've ever had a 6-scale figure that's using synthetic leather, you can spot it right away. And over time, that's the kind of material that would start to degrade, start to flake. This does seem like it's either leather or they're using a really good artificial replacement to that. Of course, the seaming on the inside of the jacket, you got no like loose threads. Everything looks really clean and finished. The pants are a little on the tighter side, so it's going to at least limit some of the posability in his legs, but you're not really going to be giving the splits to Stallone anyways. All in all, though, from head to toe, even though we have already looked at Cobra, and prior to that we also looked at John Rambo from First Blood, I would certainly say of the 3 that we've looked at from the SlyStalloneShop, this one is my favorite. Not only bearing a fantastic likeness to Sly Stallone in the earlier years in the late 70s, but also one of the best Rocky figures on the market right now. Now, again, this one is slated, and in fact, it is shipping as we speak right now in August, and it's going for $380. Big thank you once again, though, to not only, again, the artistic, talented team, the Caustic Plastic, of course, and also as well the folks over at SlyStalloneShop that did make this review possible. Is this a figure you guys could see yourselves picking up? Let me know down below in the comment section, and also let me know what your favorite Rocky movie is. In the meantime, if you guys did enjoy this video, throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more, you hit the subscribe, you can turn on the bell, you can always come back. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.